Hey, what's up? You caught me grooving out to our opening theme song. This is actNOW. I'm Julianna Forlano. Coming up on the program, some very exciting things. I have a brand new segment for you. I'm going to introduce that in a little while, where we're going to talk a little bit about some fascist talk show hosts. I don't want to telegraph it too much, but I think you might enjoy it. And we're also going to be talking with Jocelyn Macurdy Keats in the second part of the show, because she's going to be covering live events in DC on MLK Day, less than a week away from today. We're going to talk about why those events are so important, what's going to be happening. If you still want to get involved, there is time, and we're going to cover it in a post game next Tuesday. But I wanted to give you a preview in case you felt like taking a drive or a flight to DC to get involved. Then we're going to be profiling another candidate, as we've been doing. We've been taking candidates from Marianne Williamson's Candidate Endorsee Summit. We're talking about Queen Johnson today. She's running for New York's 8th District, which represents Brooklyn and Queens. She is an amazing candidate. I just like the idea that these people are running, that are just getting out there, the idea of what a real candidate looks like, what a real candidate that has humanitarian values, that's not in it for the cash, looks like, sounds like, so that we can, even if they don't win, so that we can get used to hearing them. Remember the segment we did, Feel the Burn, before Feel the Burn was even a hashtag, where we put out into the radio sphere on WBAI this idea that Bernie Sanders could run, should run, and should win. And as it turns out, it blew up, except for the winning part. But his ideas are hopefully on the march. So we've got all that coming up and more on this episode of the show. Giancarlo, let's do a 15-second breather wipe, and then we'll go into my new segment. All right, everybody. Here's the new segment on the show. It's called, but don't play the thing yet, Giancarlo. I'm just going to set it up for the viewers. It's called Another Embarrassing Paisan. I wanted to give you a little bit of context about why I'm making this segment. Paisan means a person who shares a person's place of origin. So for me, it would be other people who come from Italy. It means a compatriot. People, a lot of Italians, especially Italians, use this term, or people of Italian descent. It can also be used to mean like friend or brother or buddy, homeboy, etc. All of that. Now, this segment, Another Embarrassing Paisan. Why am I doing this segment? Well, I'd like to be sued by the Italian-American Anti-Defamation League. No, kidding. Here's why. While I was hosting the Julianna Forlano show and also the morning show on WBAI, I got a lot of people calling, texting, pulling me over at live shows to secretly whisper into my ear that they're very glad that a radical progressive such as myself, who, by the way, I mean, talk about radical. I still believe in somewhat of electoral politics. And also, I'm anti-capitalist. Anyway, they would pull me aside and say, it's so nice to hear your voice. All of my Italian relatives are on the right now. They're all right-wingers. I'm all by myself. And it's just really nice to hear that there are still some Italians who aren't like that. So here I am doing this new segment because somehow every time I see a paisano of my own doing something that really supports the oppression of immigrants, the oppression of any people at all, the oppression of people whom they descended from, it always just really strongly disappoints me. I just don't like it, and I don't get it. So I've made this new segment called Another Embarrassing Paisan. Giancarlo, hit it.
Figli di puttana! Disgrazia! Sciara! Corno! A Napoli dove mamma! I corni! A fanculo tu e nonna! Hai capito?
Thank you very much to Jesse Head for making that beautiful opening for me for this segment. Okay, to start our first inaugural episode of another embarrassing Paisan. According to a 2016 post-election BuzzFeed news poll, Italian Americans were the second largest white ethnic group to vote for Trump. First were the Germans, and you can read into that what you will, like history repeating itself. Read the rise of fascism in Europe, circa just before WW2. It was first the Germans and then the Italians, and Italians were second in forwarding the oppression and then genocide, And our first embarrassing paisano plays a major part in the fact that right here, the rise of fascism in this country and the rise of Trump relied upon Italian American voters. Introducing to you, and I hope you don't already know who he is, Dan Bongino. This is not Dan Bongino. We need a picture of Dan Bongino. Where's Dan Bongino? There he is. The New Yorker just did a profile on Dan Bongino. You're looking at it right here. Bongino is one of America's most popular radio conservative commentators. And according to the profile in the New Yorker, he boasts an audience of 8.5 million radio listeners a week. He's also a commentator on Fox. I think he has a Saturday night show. And he has a podcast where he spews venom and anger and rhetoric, which is a cheapened form of talking that has very little connection to facts and honesty. Anyway, he does that from his basement, where he himself, in the New Yorker article, admits that he doesn't get out of much. Anyway, he says things like this, quote, "They hid information about Joe Biden and his corrupt son." That's what he's always talking about, even though his massive support for Donald Trump shows that he loves corruption and graft. I don't understand it. I mean, Italians, it's a funny thing about graft and corruption and the role of those two things in Italian society. And when Joe Biden, he's crucifying on his show Joe Biden for being corrupt and a grifter, when really Trump is just, they support Trump for the exact reason that he is corrupt and a grifter. Like, they like that. Anyway, I have some nice clips of Bongino that I would like you to suffer through. All right, here we go. So first of all, I want to give you a sample, and you'll possibly be disappointed in him as well, of his climate change denial. He's constantly denying climate change. Let me see if I can pull up this thing here for you.
You understand they're just making it up, and you're a sucker if you believe this. You're like the parent who puts their kid in a mask because, I don't know, you hate your kids, you hate the truth. I don't know.
Well, that's exactly why I put my kid in a mask, because I hate my kid. I mean, that was a quickie he was trying to slip through. All right, let's get on to the denial of the climate. It gets worse from there.
You're just so blind to science. Numbers mean nothing to you. People are dying everywhere. The disastrous effects of storm and climate change. Actually, only a fraction of the people are dying now, despite 4 times the population than were 100 years ago.
Okay, so even if that were true, you would expect that, because climate change has to do with change from our pre-industrial 100 years ago situation that we were in. Have you ever seen the graphs? I didn't get one for you. Have you ever seen the graph? It just goes up exponentially. So this is just an example of the bullshit mixed with hate that 8.5 million people are tuning into. I do want to say directly to you, Dan Bongino, since I'm sure you're watching this, the olive groves, the 100-year-old olive groves in southern Italy, where I'm assuming your family came from, just an assumption, could be not the truth, but you got the look, genetically. Those 100-year-old olive groves are dying. The chestnut trees all dead due to blight, because the climate has changed. Climate change literally means the climate has changed. So even in your home country, this is affecting your home country.
What do I say to that? Nothing. You just lie. Again, you're programmed to be an idiot. and you never disappoint. Just like your mass cult, your climate change cult. Something getting worse. Frequent. People are dying. You have any data to back that up? None at all. The data.
Yes. Yes, we do. And are we saying, I mean, did not a lot of people just die in those tornadoes that ripped across the country? Did not a lot of people die in New York City from a freak flood that just came and killed them in their basement apartments recently? Are these things connected to climate chaos? Did not anyone die in the U.S., in California, in the wildfires? Yeah, people are dying. It doesn't have to be the entire country of Bangladesh gets drowned before you look at the numbers, and the numbers support what you're saying. Anyway, I could talk back to this guy all day, but I'll let him speak for himself.
Tell the opposite. It doesn't matter what you say to them. Their heads they're full of 6 feet of concrete. These are the dumbest people on planet Earth.
That's so interesting because we're very highly educated, especially the people who are concerned about climate change. And the other thing about Bongino that is so disappointing, further disappointing, he too is well educated. He has a master's degree in psychology. I think he has an MBA from a very decent, excellent, upstanding school. So he's not stupid. He's just a propagandist who is profiting off death and doom.
Nothing you can say to them to break through. I promise. Nothing. Say it was climate change. Was it climate change? No, it had nothing to do with it. Just say it anyway.
I mean, there's that. I think we got that. I mean, this dumb fucker just made an ad hominem attack. See what I did there? Anyway, he said climate change is a cult. Yes, it's a cult. It's the brotherhood of your eyeballs. Just look outside. You don't need to even look at the numbers anymore. Denial ain't just a river in that other country just south of the boot. All right. He also talked about critical race theory. Let me see if I can get the right video playing at the right time. Otherwise, I'm going to call Giancarlo to save me here.
They're being taught critical race theory.
There we go.
This is racist. This is a racist theory being taught to your kids right now in school. And parents have had enough. With everything from ridiculous mask mandates to the end.
Isn't that funny? He's like saying, this is racist. He is talking to a bunch of people who have not been known, let's just put it mildly, for their concern about racism. He wants them to go pull their kids out of school because they're because of the racist curriculum. Fascinating. Horrifying.
Endless indoctrination of their children. They are unapologetically standing up to school boards to stop.
Okay, I just want to say education is kind of an indoctrination of your children. My daughter just had to learn about the flag and a whole bunch of military stuff that I would not agree with. That was only half the story. Oh, I don't know what's happening to the video here, but no one wants to watch more of it anyway.
These ridiculous mask mandates and the destructive indoctrination. With everything from ridiculous mask mandates to the endless theory being taught to your kids right now in school. And parents have had enough. With everything from ridiculous mask mandates to the endless indoctrination of their children. They are unapologetically standing up to school boards to stop these ridiculous mask mandates and the destructive indoctrination of our children with critical race theory.
Okay, so he's putting that masks have to do with racism, and you're welcome that this is all blacked out over here and that you can't see him. All right, moving along. He also talks about white supremacy and how it's not real. Here we go. Oh, do you know why these aren't working, Giancarlo? I can't seem to get them. They're only playing in black screen, which is funny on some level. Oh, I'm gone. There we go. Nope. I don't know where we're at. What happened? Oh, I think JC is in the background going to fix this for me. And in post, I'm going to cut this part out with the giant pause, and then you'll never even know it's here. Oh, wait, we're in a live show. There is no post. Anyway, here we go.
Every objection to blue
Thank you for fixing
despoilation
it.
is now openly ascribed to white supremacy. Don't want to be late for work because regime-favored protesters are illegally blocking an intersection? White supremacy. Object to being beaten up on the streets? White supremacy.
Wait a minute. Who's getting beaten up on the streets? Pretty sure it's not whites.
Want to see the laws enforced equally and impartially? White supremacy.
All you whites out.
I am very confused about what the hell he's talking about. Yes, we would like to see the laws enforced equally across the board. We would like police to be held responsible for crimes they may commit, whether on the job or off. We would like billionaires to be held responsible regardless of their money. We would like our politicians who are either war criminals or treasonous or name any things that they've been doing over the past couple of however long you've been alive and before. We would like them held responsible. Yes, we would. And we would also like people like Kyle Rittenhouse to be held responsible for basically going across state lines and shooting people. We would like that. I could go on, but I'm going to let him go on to show you why I am embarrassed of him.
Out there, white men, white kids, white moms, you're all racist slobs. Everybody hates you. You're mutts. You should never vote, never show up again. You shouldn't have any representation.
You know, there is this book. Have you ever considered it wasn't that long ago that Italians were not considered white. And now you whitened it all up. Oh God, I don't even want to wade into that discussion without an expert because I fear I will get myself in trouble. But just identifying with the aggressor is and becoming the aggressor and then becoming the oppressor, which is what Bongino has done for himself and what he is turning people, his listeners, attracting listeners and then infecting them with this kind of hate-based talk. By the way, Bongino worked for President Barack Obama, I believe, in the Secret Service, and he had nothing but wonderful things to say about Obama until he got a radio show and decided to just be a propagandist. So, and then he complains about the media being filled with lies, which it is because he's filling it with lies. Okay, I'm losing my mind.
Every objection to blue despoilation is now openly ascribed to white supremacy. Don't want to be late for work because regime-favored.
Oh God, we already heard this one, and I don't want to make you sit through it again. All right, let's do the next one. He has a particular, and our friend Rebecca at actNOW pulled this one out. He has a particular weird dislike for Joy Behar, the host of The View, also an Italian American, and a woman. I noticed this guy likes to attack women all of the time. Let's discuss that in a brief, briefly. All right. Notice in this, hold on a second. Notice in this clip, he attacks Joy Behar and he attacks Joy Reid as if Joy's, he's just against all Joys in all their various form. One woman, another woman, who cares? Let's listen to it.
Joy Behar, a horrible comedian on The View. She's so proud of herself. Look at me. And she's inviting applause. Joy's like, 2 + 2 = 7. And the audience, if that's the debate you want to have, Joy, fine.
Joy Reid's show has been a failure.
I have no idea what the hell he's talking about. At least play some clips. Okay.
Failure for a long time, as Joy Reid has been. Why does Joy upset about Nicki Minaj? Because Joy loves censorship. Joy's a Soviet. You think Joy would
wait? So now he's sticking up for Nicki Minaj. A left is right, right is left.
Be smart enough, but Joy's not. I believe Joy is genuinely one of the idiots in the media. She really is. I just think she's very dumb.
Joy Behar is frankly kind of dumb. Is this woman even of planet Earth? Like, is she thinking? Do you realize what she just said?
Joy's just trying to save her career by saying increasingly stupid things. She knows what she says is a lie, but that's
okay. I hate to make you sit through this again, but I want you to replace every time he says joy with I and see how the truth value raises through the roof.
A horrible comedian on The View. She's so proud of herself. Look at me. And she's inviting applause. Joy's like, 2 + 2 = 7. And the audience, if that's the debate you want to have, Joy, fine.
Joy Reid's show has been a failure for a long time, as Joy Reid has been. Why does Joy upset about Nicki Minaj? Because Joy loves censorship. Joy's a Soviet. You think Joy would be smart enough, but Joy's not. I believe Joy is genuinely one of the idiots in the media. She really is. I just think she's very dumb.
Joy Behar is frankly kind of dumb. Is this woman even of planet Earth? Like, is she thinking? Do you realize what she just said?
Joy's just trying to save her career by saying increasingly stupid things. She knows what she says is a lie, but that's just what Joy does.
But that's just what he does. He knows what he says is a lie. Or maybe he's convinced himself. I don't know. I try not to watch it that much. Here's the question I have about this. Are people who listen to talk radio like this show really watching Joy Behar every day? Or is it their like wives or mothers that are watching The View and Bongino is just fomenting strife by attacking her even within the most intimate of bonds? There's a big moral and spiritual mistake of splitting people from each other who love each other. And this is what this guy's doing. I mean, Joy was talking about there being no more hell with Betty White, by the way. We've been talking about Betty White recently since she passed away. Joy was talking about there being that an evangelical preacher said that there's no more hell and they're trying to do away with this concept of hell in certain areas of the religion. And she talked about that with Betty White in an interview. Here, I have a segment of it I'd like you to see, and it ties in here a little bit. Let's play the Betty White piece.
Get along with everyone on the Golden Girls? I mean,
yes.
You did?
Oh, yes.
Wait, this is the whole video? I only need the one Giancarlo. The 155 to 238. Hold on, let me see if I can there you go. Look at that. Oh, I was just playing it. Where did you do that? Bring that back. Oh, this is a disaster. I hope you're enjoying the show.
There's a new preacher talking about how there's no such thing as hell anymore, that they don't believe in hell anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like one of these evangelical preachers is saying that he doesn't think there's a hell, which upsets people.
Maybe he figures he's already been there.
That could be. That could be. Because, people don't like that idea because that means that people like bin Laden are not going to go to hell, and Hitler and the evildoers of the world. So.
Well, the human being, the human animal, I love everything with a leg on each corner, but the human animal is a vengeful creature.
It's hard not to be a vengeful creature when someone like Bongino is creating actually a living hell right here on the planet that we're living on right now. Doesn't matter if there's one afterwards. I think Bongino's attacks on Joy Behar are attacks on women in general, because Behar is sweet and nice and kind-hearted and brave. And those are, of course, qualities that patriarchy has devalued, as it turns out, and dismissed. I mean, he keeps calling her stupid, stupid, stupid. Personally, I'd prefer to have a kind-hearted, humanistic leader in charge of things rather than smart bots or smart, hateful bots or any kind of hateful bot. Someone like a smarty like Zuckerberg who doesn't understand human connection. I don't want those people to lead. I want nice people up there, people who understand connection, people who are generous and, again, kind-hearted. Bongino is showing who he is by his rhetoric and his actions, no matter what he says. You don't have to be kind. You don't be kind and go to war and foment people attacking the government. That's not a kindness. In fact, it's really people with a low level of enlightenment who believe that might make right in any area. And 8.5 million people listen to this guy. And I don't think they're all hate listening. That's what we're up against, people. Damn. Finally, to show more misogyny, and then we will be done with this very embarrassing paisan. We've got a little video I pulled out of him taking down Kamala Harris and AOC for laughing. Let's take a look.
It's one of those confusion dudes. Dude, what? So what's funny about this? Your kids are out of school and they need childcare. She's like, wait, is she okay? I'm not kidding. Is she okay?
Are you okay?
AOC, we took a comedy break before, unintended. This is a serious comedy break because I don't even know what's so funny about this. I get what's funny about AOC. She never knows what she's talking about and says it anyway. That's hilarious. But what I don't get is comedy in inappropriate times. You ever been at a party and this guy's laughing at everything and you're like, is this dude a weirdo or what? Like, we've all been there, right? I was like, no one else is laughing. And he sounds like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker character and everybody's like moving away. Like this is, well, we've got one of those in government right now. Kamala Harris is laughing again. At what? I have no idea. I don't know what's funny about anything she laughs at. Immigration crisis at the border.
He's going to show a clip.
Now,
I'm pretty sure she's not laughing at the immigration crisis at the border.
She's laughing. I don't even, what is she, I don't, Gee, what, you don't even know what she's laughing about this. I don't even remember.
Is he just like, women aren't funny and they're laughing crazy like hyenas?
Remember. Joe, you cut the video. You even remember?
Dude.
She's always laughing.
Yeah.
What is so funny? Here's Kamala Harris in another fit of laughter about another serious subject. And she's like, check this out.
More people are seeing that, yeah, affordable childcare is a big deal. More parents are seeing the value of educators when they had to bring their kids and saying, we're not paying them nearly enough.
Okay, he cut that and slowed that down and added on to the end. But I have to tell you something. They're making fun of her for laughing. First of all, the guy's a wicked hater. And that is why he's another disappointing paisan. But, the reason you don't get her laughing is because you aren't in on the joke. You don't understand even what she is pointing the laughter at. She is laughing at the absurdity of not paying educators what they're worth. Like real educators, not Bonginos who are educating people who are listening to talk radio. Second of all, it's great that you're busting on her laugh, but what about what she's saying? You can bust on her laugh all you want. What about what she's saying? How many of the spouses of the people listening to you or watching your show are school teachers? How many are teachers themselves? How many did Bongino's rhetoric have to do with these teachers getting screwed by Betsy DeVos under Trump? How many teachers are losing their pensions because of conservatives like Bongino encouraging people by just doing attacks on somebody's laugh instead of even engaging with the actual politics? I don't think the listeners are getting it. And third, just FYI, she is in front of a live audience where obviously someone in the audience reacted and she was reacting off of that. And do I have to remind you of the Howard Dean story? Oh, yes, I do have to remind you of the Howard Dean story. When you take clips and you play them over an internet, over a TV, over a screened medium, of things that happened in a live space, they don't always play out exactly as they are playing out successfully in a live space. I can't believe I have to explain this. If we spent all day explaining the ins and outs of what propagandists are doing, we would spend all day. We would have no dearth of content. Anyway. Do you want no, I explained the Howard Dean thing to you, but Jocelyn is waiting and I got to go. Anyway, they should definitely change this guy's name to, instead of Bongino, Molly Gino, to Bad Gino. He's not a good Gino. Southern Italians arrived in the United States ship by ship. This is according to Christine Grimaldi in the LA Review of Books in the late 1800s and early 1900s, often with little more than the clothes on their backs and a burning desire for justice and deep-seated anger at injustice. They brought their appetite for radical social and economic change into the factories and tenements where they lived. They often squinted over buttonholes or breathed in feather fluff for pennies an hour for as much as 18 hours a day. That is according to Smith College professor Jennifer Guglielmo. Hopefully I got that right. They led progressive labor movements in their time and included Italian-American women largely written out of history. And now Italian Americans make up the largest voting bloc for Trump. Pushed there by talk radio host and our very first embarrassing paisan, Dan Mangino. I'm Julianna Forlano. We'll be back in our next segment to talk with Jocelyn Macurdy Keats. Stay tuned. Jocelyn is joining us today. Jocelyn Macurdy Keats. We've got an MLK pre-game special for you today. Jocelyn's going to be in DC covering the events that are going to be happening there next Monday. And it's not too late for you to get in your car or your VW bus or your Subaru or your Prius or your Mercedes and drive down there or take the bus, whatever. Wear a mask. Jocelyn, thanks for joining me on the program today.
Hello, Juliana. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Lovely. It's very cold out.
Oh, yes.
So cold.
Unless you're in the South and then you're dying because there's no such thing as climate change, according to our last segment. Anyway, what's going on in DC next week on Monday?
Oh, boy. So there is some drama over MLK Day, and it's not MLK's son's fault. Let's put it that way.
What is happening?
So,
tell people.
You know, we've talked about voting rights a lot on the show. And just to recap for people, Black voters turned out in historic numbers in 2020, which launched this aggressive voter suppression push in 2021. We had 400 voter suppression bills introduced in state legislatures all over the country. And meanwhile, the people who got elected by these Black voters, the Democrats in Senate and the White House, have just been playing kind of coy with the issue, allowing Manchin and Sinema to obfuscate the whole process, not pushing hard enough to remove the filibuster. And so MLK Jr. III, Martin Luther King's oldest son, is saying, hey, you know what? We're not going to just pretend this is all normal, because you all are not doing your job and keeping your promises to Black communities in America. We're going to do our own thing. So instead of engaging with the political events around MLK Day, they're sort of protesting it and doing their own thing. A peace walk at 9 a.m. in DC and actions in Arizona.
So there are events, other events scheduled to go on by other groups. Is that right?
That is true. And the website for Deliver for Voting Rights is the website where you can find things in your local area, or again, come to DC, where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. To the Lincoln Memorial.
All right, so you're going to be there. Is that right?
I am. I think that we, a number of us are actually on the ActTV team. It should be a really beautiful day with a bittersweet tone, right? Because this is a day that ideally we're celebrating one of the greatest leaders, organizers, thinkers of modern history. And instead, what happened over the past fall is we were covering all these voting rights actions, and every single time I'm there, I'm talking to people who marched for this last time. We tend to think of Martin Luther King as being this transcendent historical figure, but it wasn't that long ago. Most of our grandparents are around his age.
Oh, gosh, that is so true. Yes, that is so true. Oh, I've noticed that the right wing and Fox and all these right-wing news segments have been quoting Martin Luther King for their own purposes, their own fascist, racist purposes. What are your thoughts on what's going on in terms of, the rhetoric wars that we're seeing today and how they affect the celebrations that are going on the in Washington next week?
Well, I think there's a social and historical trend that we need to be aware of as consumers of media, just citizens, that when somebody who radically alters the way we view human rights a generation passes, a couple generation passes, we start to embalm them in this neutral gauze of like, oh, I would have loved MLK if I were alive at his time. No, you wouldn't. Same thing with Gandhi. Gandhi was a disruptor. MLK was a disruptor. Dorothy Day has an amazing quote that I love. Don't call me a saint. I don't want to be dismissed that easily.
Ha.
And it's what we do. We put these people who, Martin Luther King desegregated, was instrumental in.
I mean, the minute he started talking about like that war is not good, he even lost like the left,
right,
or the halfway left, or whatever.
It was a very tumultuous time, which I think it's just so easy for us to forget because we're hand delivered this history in a very G-rated way. I mean,
we're also living through like you're right. It's so just all of the depth of it is just squeezed out of it so they can be a cartoon character in a book that's not taught in history in local elementary school, local schools. Apparently you can't teach about that.
It's so funny. I don't know if Julianna, if you got this one too, but when I was in elementary school, we literally watched a cartoon about Martin Luther King's life. I can't remember. It was like Martin and Me or something. It was great, by the way. It was actually a really good cartoon for kids about the civil rights movement. But the problem with this way of viewing history as sort of a passive participant, it's like those other people won the rights for us, and now we're free,
and it's all done.
It's over. Thank you for coming to Civil Rights Spirit Week. And what Martin Luther King Jr.'s kids are saying is, hey, so those very things that you're celebrating are not here anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's an insult to our father. It's an insult to us. It's an insult to Black people and working class people all over this country who are finding their voting rights threatened explicitly and implicitly. It's so funny. People forget that Black Americans Black men got the right to vote. But then what happened is they implemented all these footnotes, poll tax, ridiculously invasive tests about all this random erudite knowledge you need to vote. And now they're doing the same thing. They're making polling places as hard to get to as possible. They're saying you need all these forms of ID. You can't do mail-in ballots. It's the same thing. The lines of the script are not that different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Biden has been out there saber rattling a bit this week about what he plans to do around voting rights. Any thoughts about what's going on that front?
Well, the word from the organizers is it's not really enough. President Joseph Biden was obviously has allegedly talks a lot about the need to protect voting rights on a federal level. But the things he could do put tremendous pressure on Democrats in the Senate to pass this legislation and remove the filibuster. He seems wary of doing, and it's not really clear why, right? Some people say it's because he's too focused on other pieces of legislation. Others think that that's just not his personality. But regardless, we need him to go full Lyndon B. Johnson and get some people to do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, we definitely need that. I don't understand. Does he not want to win next time? Because if he doesn't do this, he's not going to win.
It's weird, right? I don't get it either.
I mean, there is a concern about, and I've covered this, abolishing the filibuster before on the show, but there is a concern that if you abolish the filibuster, then the right is going to they're going to use that to jam through, when they get the opportunity, any number of laws and horrible things that they want to do. Well, number one, here's my argument against that. They're going to do that anyway. First, I was gonna say. They're doing it. They're going to do it. And, the experts that I brought on around filibuster reform have all said, listen, if we don't either reform or get rid of the filibuster at this point in history, it's game over for our democracy. Because if we do because of all the gerrymandering and the other techniques that the right has been using to win, even though their voting populace is shrinking, if they win the seats, they're going to do the votes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that you say that, Juliana, because I think a lot of people are just so desensitized to this state of affairs, to the electors being so psychologically and legislative disparate from the electorate. We forget that's not a democracy. If what you have is popular support for everything we want, healthcare reform, climate crisis interventions, police reform, and electors who are voting and creating legislation that is incredibly opposite of that, that is by definition not a democracy. And it has not always been this extreme of a divide.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, once Barack Obama, our first Black president in the United States, became president, then the white supremacists went nuts and they got Trump elected. And now that it's like now that African Americans came out and supported the wave for Biden, these people want to take away their votes. It's really like the oppression is certainly not, subtle anymore. It's baffling. And you have a lot of more moderate Democrats coming out and saying, what are you guys doing? You've had Adam Gentleson on the show. He writes about how the filibuster, this fear that moderates, heavy air quotes, like Joe Manchin, if we abolish the filibuster, it'll be legislative chaos. It doesn't hold up to reality even a little bit. The filibuster is relatively new, and it was brought around to protect slavery. We don't need the filibuster to have basic comprehensive, and the Senate. And if they have to use the filibuster, they're going to get in. If the right gets in, if Republicans get in, the filibuster is working against them, it's going to be 5 seconds and they'll be done with it. Absolutely. So they're not afraid to utilize their power. Yeah. I don't know. I think those two excuses about what may be stopping Joe Biden might not be the only issues that are on the table. First of all, Joe Biden is a corporate candidate. And if the filibuster is done away with, then many things that the corporate state is supportive of will be voted down, or our electors will be forced to vote them down or stand up and show who they really are. And then be voted out, because the people want what the people want, which is justice and a kind society. And I think that encompasses everything. I think that's actually very true. And it feels like this administration loves to use Congress as a crutch for why they can't act on the things that they were elected on, whether it's voting rights, student debt, aggressive. Oh, they're not going to do that because the banks have them by the. Yes. By the, yes. Yes. Yeah. By the legislative power. Right. Sure. Yeah. By the legislative. Yeah, it's terrible. I don't know. Should we even keep pushing for the on the left for the release from student debt? I think it's a dead issue. It's an interesting question, because I think, it's what I'm excited about, at least, is that it's getting talked about more and more as what it is. The mainstream media has done that very good job of, sorry, I'm echoing. Can you guys hear that? No, it's okay. You're good. Okay. The mainstream media has really betrayed the American public, covering this in a bungled way. Oh, these are just rich people who want their loans forgiven. That's not true at all. Sure, 35% of people with student debt are in fact upwardly mobile professionals, but most are people who are working class students who that was their only way forward into an education. And what we're not talking about is the fact that a couple generations ago, the jobs that college graduates are applying for didn't require a college degree, which they now do, making it essentially a $200,000 ticket of admission to a $35,000 entry-level job. It's just so messed up. Yes, you said it, my friend. You said it, Jocelyn Macurdy Keats of actTV. Okay, I know we weren't going to talk about this, but we did talk about it last week, so I need to know. The Sirota interview, how did it go? It was actually really great. I was very nervous because,
you know, I don't typically talk to Hollywood producers on a Friday morning, you know,
I know
maybe
they always come
someday.
in on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. That's my Saturday, guys. I was super nervous, but it was a wonderful interview, and I really do recommend everyone look at it. Alex and I don't talk that much. It's mostly David Sirota talking about Don't Look Up and how, you know, when I asked him your question, Juliana, about like how much is the media complicit in this thing and how much of your work as a journalist, he had a really good answer. He said, working as a journalist, whether on the climate crisis or any number of issues, he talked about covering the Andrew Cuomo nursing home scandal. It's just incredibly difficult to get the actual stories to land right now because we're all living in this diffuse digital distraction machine where we're like, oh, like Snapchat, TikTok, this pundit is sleeping with that pundit. It's like, no one cares, you know, it's much, and it's true. I don't want to sound like an old person because I'm obviously on social media.
I like old people. I think they're right about everything, except for the stuff they're wrong about. Anyway,
we forget that it wasn't that long ago where you got your information from an actual held in hand paper and you were reading actual journalism. There wasn't this same prism of misinformation that could echo around the country and have people storming the Capitol. Like it's so a scary new world.
Yeah. I mean, you have to push back a little because a lot of that journalism is also kind of propaganda-ish as well.
That's
but
true.
what we have
That's
now
true.
it's crazy town. You know, it's it's crazy town. It's crazy town. I encourage everyone to go to acTV's YouTube page and watch the show with David Sirota. It's at Solidarity live from this past Friday with Jocelyn and Alex Lawson. Thanks so much for being on the show, Jocelyn. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Juliana. Bye,
we
guys.
look forward to on Tuesday. You'll be back, right, to talk about what happened on MLK Day, and you'll have clips and all kinds of stuff for us. Yes?
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
We look forward to it. Thanks so much, Jocelyn.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. You're watching actTV. Coming up next, I'm going to talk a little bit about another candidate from the Candidate Endorsee Summit that's being run by Marianne Williamson that I think you need to know about. So stay with me. All right. We are here on our Candidate Endorsee Summit review. I think I told you before, Marianne Williamson is running a candidate summit in, platform where she endorses people that she believes have really true progressive credentials. And these people obviously need a mouthpiece. They need the independent media to talk about them. I've looked into all of these folks and I'm bringing you them one by one. This week, we're talking about Queen Johnson. She is running in New York's 8th district, which represents Brooklyn and Queens. She is very concerned about the broken welfare system. She grew up in poverty herself. She wants to prevent the next generation from having to do the same and going through those same struggles, especially because we live in the richest country in the world. People should not be in poverty. She has a history of fighting for housing rights against big developers. And, she's got a lot going on for her. She wants to break the cycle of poverty by creating and improving access to jobs, increasing wages, investing in agriculture. I pulled these right off of her web page. But what's really impressive about Queen is that, it's the way that she is, the person that she is. So here is Queen speaking in her own voice about why she is running for New York's 8th.
My name is Queen Johnson. I'm a community organizer, a mutual aid giver, a public servant, and I am a human rights activist running for U.S. Congress in New York 8th. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York in the 90s. My mother was a working class single mother. We lived in a public housing development, high crime area. Our housing conditions was not the best, but it was considered home. My mom received government assistance and I received a public school education. I am not new to protesting at all. At the age of 13, I was protesting alongside Alice Sharpton against police brutality. My neighbor, unarmed 19-year-old Timothy Stansbury, was shot on my roof building by an NYPD officer. Of course, they called it an accidental shooting, but it was nothing accidental about this crime that the officer committed. As a mother of 3 young Black sons, 8, 6, and 4, I refuse for my sons to become another hashtag. And I refuse for our children to continue to grow up in an injustice system that the odds are against them based on the color of their skin. History is continuously repeating itself. And why is it? Enough is enough. This is why I am fighting to end qualified immunity. So all officers are held accountable for abusing their power in Black and brown communities like my own. Growing up in poverty, I knew I wanted to do more for my community. Although I couldn't afford to go to college, I did receive a college education. I took out the loans that were necessary, and I made it my mission to pursue my bachelor's degree in economic analysis because I wanted to study. How could I get my community out of the cycle of poverty? And I learned by creating and improving access to jobs, raising the minimum wage, investing and implementing agricultural programs, reforming our criminal justice system, and providing all people with access to basic social services, which includes education, healthcare, adequate food, sanitation, shelter, and clean water, are ways to reduce poverty. While completing my degree, I landed a job as a Medicaid eligibility specialist for the city of New York, and I was a part of a recertification unit. Why do we have a recertification unit when it comes to healthcare? And the heartbreak I experienced for having to tell someone they aren't eligible for healthcare, our human rights, based on a criteria made me sick to my stomach. That is why I am fighting for Medicare for all, because no one deserves to be denied healthcare based on a determination. My run for U.S. Congress is about protecting and putting the people first. I'm running against Hakeem Jeffries, a career politician who has created a pact to keep progressive candidates like myself out of office. But no pact will keep me silent. No pact will stop me from fighting. And no pact will be bigger than my community. As the people, we demand a Medicare for all because it will save thousands and millions of lives. As the people, we demand a housing guarantee to close the gap on the homelessness population. As the people, we demand a Green New Deal to tackle the climate crisis that we are all experiencing as a nation. As the people, we demand a justice reform to end our injustice system. As the people, we demand to abolish ICE and reunite these innocent children with their families. And as the people, I'm fighting for racial, social, and economic justice for everyone. And I won't stop until all of our demands are met, because that is what is owed to us. Not only do I have a bachelor's degree in economic analysis, I also have a PhD in this thing called life, something that Hakeem Jeffries can't even buy. To all who are listening and watching tonight, make sure you are supporting our progressive movement and continue to exercise your voting rights and community involvement, because it does take a village. We have a long way to go, but the first step is supporting progressive candidates and electing them into office for change to start happening. And to New York 8, if you are watching tonight, I just want you to all know that I do love you. We are in this together. And please remember, it is always more of us than them. To all who is watching, if you would like to learn more about who I am, about my platform, please go to queenforcongress.com. Once again, my name is Queen Johnson, and I'm running for U.S. Congress, New York 8th District.
Woohoo! Who would not want her representing their district? I think, again, queenforcongress.com. It's right down here where you can go and, learn more about her. Support her, even if you're not from that district. I know everyone's asking for support here, there, and everywhere. You can always just, if you know somebody in Queens or in Brooklyn, you can email this to them, et cetera, et cetera. Get the word out, help her in any way you can. I'm Julianna Forlano. You have been watching actNOW, brought to you by actTV. Thanks so much for being here. On Thursday, we're going to have another show at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is when we're always on. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern on every outlet you're watching us on now. Thanks so much. We'll see you then.